Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time out this evening, especially after a session just before this one. But I think ours is going to be more fun than the last one. We're gonna try and make sure that happens. But I'm super excited to be talking to Delhi Allen this evening. Delhi is a freelance producer and, separately from that, an actor. She's worked as a sole or co-producer, as well as executive, line and associate producer on like 15 titles since January 2015, including the Channel 4 funded film False Indigo, for which Delhi was sole producer. While it is being released later this year, False Indigo has already picked up an award for Best Drama Short Film at the Venice Film Awards. So congratulations, well done. And currently Delhi is working as a development producer on a TV pilot for a streaming service, as well as an as yet untitled feature film. So you're just like doing everything.
Well, everything connected to production, but yeah. Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. Thank you, everyone who has joined. I really hope this is going to be a relaxed, nice, but also very positive and inspiring session for you. So feel free at any point to drop us a message in the chat. We both can see it. If you have any comments on anything we're currently discussing, or any questions, of course. But I'm sure you know Gage. Gage Oxley is a Leeds-based director and writer. He is an advocate for the LGBTQ+ community. He's actively seeking doing such projects. He's been creating such with his company for, I believe, 5 years now, or even over 5 years with Oxygen Films. His recent queer mini series, Series of Light, is currently on Amazon Prime, and he has just been commissioned a second season. So congratulations for that, and you're currently working on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's really stressful to, if anyone doesn't know, it's really stressful to make anything during pandemic, especially season for Amazon. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So Delhi, I wanted to ask how you started off. Like, obviously you've done so much stuff, but you know, back when it all started, did you go to university, film school, or another path?
So it wasn't super traditional. It's a mix. I started acting first off, and even though I was quite young when I started, I think I was around 12. Around 16, I started being like asked from different people, oh, can you help us like source a location? Or, oh, do you know this guy? Can you get him involved in this project? Or this director and this and this? And I guess I happened to be connected with people in a very positive way. So people responded positively when I asked them to do me a favor, which technically now looking back, I realized it has been executive producing, helping with little bits, like being brought onto projects. So I wouldn't consider that conscious producing, but now I see that it kind of was getting me there. So I started developing, Millennium Films has a film studio, I don't know if in Europe, in Eastern Europe and Bulgaria. So they advertise this all over Europe, that they are going to have a film school for 6 months. And the first part was screenwriting, and they would be selecting 20 people. So you had to apply with a CV, you had an interview and a pitch for a script. And they were going to select 5 scripts to finance and film in the studio lot. So I thought that was a great opportunity to do something that I know potentially could be made, because we all know that some stuff unfortunately don't get made. And I started writing this. I did a pitch, I did an interview, sent my CV. I think I did 2 interviews, and then I was selected to be one of the 20 to work with a mentor to develop the script. And as we were progressing with the course, they decided that they're no longer gonna finance 5, they're only gonna do 1. And it wasn't mine, because mine was quite complicated. It was like a sports revenge drama, so I could see why, you know, it could be a bit pricey. So the script that they chose was kind of like coming of age drama, and the second part of the film school was the production. So I got to, you could pick what you want to do, more cinematography, more directing, or more production. So I did directing and production, with doing a lot on the post-production, observing, learning how all the DI team works. I was on set as an AD, mainly second AD. I did first AD a little bit. I was doing a lot of production coordinating. I was extras coordinator. I was doing all sorts of stuff. And I also had a small part. in the film. So I would have days when I would just wake up and have to check if all the extras have arrived, all while getting my makeup done, going to set, make sure the call sheet is prepped for the next day, and all
Wow.
that. But it was like full on, but it was excellent experience.
Sounds
And
it.
then the last part was editing. So you could like obviously you didn't have to do all the stuff, but I wanted to. So I did that as well. I edited the film that I was involved in, and it's completed, but I'm not sure if they released it. But nevertheless, that was, so that's kind of like a really long answer of how I kind of stepped in first. So it is a film school sort of a thing, but not really, because it's not a traditional
Hmm.
thing. And from then on, because I obviously met a lot of production people, I was invited to, work a little bit in casting, work a little bit more in production, and I started doing a lot of my own stuff, including I filmed a proof of concept for that script, hoping to find investors. But as I said, it turned out to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah. Well,
So now
if
it's
we have any
kind
millionaires in the BFI Film Academy, please
of
consider
well.
contributing to Delhi's concept. Great.
No, it's an excellent script, but I'm just such a perfectionist that I want things to
Mhm.
be, I'm always about quality over quantity. So I'm very picky on the stuff I work on. And with this one, I really wanted to make it work well. And I decided to put it on pause rather than rush it and not achieve the product that I wanted to put out there. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just overall, like just doing everything, and I'd guess for the BFI Film Academy, because I was actually on the BFI Film Academy Leeds about 7 years ago now, and did something that I don't want to do now back then. But actually, what was really useful was to do all of the jobs, which it sounds like you kind of did by doing like second ADing, first ADing, makeup, pretty much everything, and that kind of whittled down then, and also brought you a lot of experience and skill that you probably wouldn't have got from a film school because that's the type of thing that you want to get from a set.
Yeah, I guess so. How did you get into this crazy industry of ours?
Well, as I say, I was on the BFI Film Academy 7 years ago. I have wanted to become a filmmaker, a writer, and director since I was about 8. So fingers crossed, I've kind of improved a little bit since then. But yes, I basically started just doing my own little things, my own short films, like everyone kind of does, pulling together friends, doing it on shoestring budgets. And essentially, yeah, that's kind of where I started. I did not go to film school. I'd saved up loads and loads of money for university, and then right at the very last second was like, no, actually, I really don't want to do this, and so spent it all on a feature film, which then got premiered in cinemas, and then it's kind of just snowballed since there. So short films, I set up my own company, and yeah, we've now made I think 6 or 7 films, a TV series for Amazon, and our last feature premiered in Leicester Square, and I think all of those kind of same with you, all of those experiences are kind of almost better or at least equal to film school, just because
Mhm.
that's where you learn best is through experience. Um, so that's kind of where I started, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see where I go.
There you go. Yeah, it's always a learning curve. No, I completely agree. It's very. I mean, film schools are good. Short courses are good. Anything is good. Any sort of, even if you are a runner on something, it's good because that's how you learn. There is no shame in learning. I'm still constantly learning, and I'm happy to be involved in a project, even as a UPM. If the project is good and I'm going to learn, I don't necessarily need to be the lead producer. So I think that's one very important
Mm,
characteristic that I think people should have is being humble and always striving to like learn more.
yeah,
Doesn't matter if you have 5 or 50 or 500 projects, you should never like stop learning.
yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, even if it is just shadowing people, shadowing a director, like even if you're not doing anything actually on the job, obviously that's better. But if you're just kind of there to be able to watch, and I heard that you did something similar to that, where am I right in
Mhm.
thinking you kind of got not I was going to say stunt double, but it's not stunt double. It's like a
Well,
stand-in. Can you tell us the story?
yeah, I did. It was very random. I met someone on a job. I met one of the one, not someone. It's a wonderful AD. He's very established in the film industry, and we were just having a chat, like casual. And I was like, "Oh, what are you off to? You know, what are you doing next? Where are you off to?" And he was like, "I'm going to Scotland." I was like, "That's really random. Where are you going to Scotland?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do Avengers." And I was like, "No," because I was just like doing, I was just doing a marathon, and I was just like, "Take me. Can I do anything? I just want to be there." And he's like, "You crazy? Like you're just gonna come for 2 months?" And I was like, "Yeah, I will." And he just looked me up and down. He's like, "How tall are you?" I'm like, 5'6". He's like, you know what? There's like actors coming overseas, like Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, and other people. Would you like to double for Scarlett Johansson? And I was just like, okay, whatever gets me on set. It's just like it's just such a massive learning curve. So then that was that, and then he called me 2 weeks later and said, "Can you fly to Edinburgh next week to do a fitting? Because actually Elizabeth Olsen's going to be on there for 2 months. Scarlett is just coming for 2 days, and you actually match more her physicality and her appearance. So would you like to do that?" And I was like, "Sure." And I bought a ticket. I went to Edinburgh. And then I moved there. That was when was it? 2017, March, April, a little bit of May, I believe. So all these conversations happened like Jan, Feb, and then I started working on it for 2 months. So yeah, that was like it's completely not related to the production work, but I just thought, what an incredible experience that would be to just see the biggest. Like I love Kevin Feige. He was not on set, but he's one of my, you know, role models, if you can put it like that. American, and then Matthew Vaughn is British. So I would always like love to see how they organize stuff, and just it happened to be a very homely set, and everyone was like really chatty and everyone was really friendly, and yeah, it just was I wasn't just standing around. I was just every day I was learning some new stuff. I was going around asking people. The first few days I befriended the stunt people and the camera operators, because as I said, there is no job that you cannot utilize into a learning experience. And yeah, I learned tons about cameras. I was just going around like, how much would this cost if I use it for this film that I'm doing? And I was just like going around asking people everything, and they just happen to be really cool people to talk, because not everyone is like. Sometimes people might prefer to just focus on their job, but these guys were like awesome, like a little family. And they said it themselves. I'm quoting them. They're like, we always work like together, and it's always been a nice. And while I was doing that, my partner was also working with him, the one that we kind of continued like working on this script from the film school together, and he was actually also crew on that. And he was like, because I was more involved in it, he was kind of like, I was doing night shoots and he was like sitting in like this cozy restaurant. I was freezing outside and he was like writing the script. And the second AD was on there, and we were talking with him about scheduling it. So it was like just really like, I think, as I said, any job you do, if you can just learn from people and ask questions, it's like an amazing experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just goes to show that there's no right way into the industry. You could literally learn so much by becoming someone who's a stand-in for an actor, and
Yeah.
especially on a
And
massive
again,
show
like
like that.
it's really important how you spend your time on set, because usually I don't know if anyone who's joined us on the chat has been on set as a as runner or stand-in. Like if you're stand-in, you really kind of put like sit there and we'll call you when you're needed. And when you're like runner, you're like literally like constantly running around, but you get to talk to everyone.
Mhm.
So it's really up to you if in between while you're queuing for coffee or while you're on set waiting, it's up to you to like stand up and go and be there. You're not in anyone's way, especially if it's such a massive set. Like you're
Mhm.
not in anyone's way to just observe. You don't even need to ask questions. And then I'm sure that if you are positive, people see that you really are there to learn. They would never say no to answering something like, how much does the crane cost to rent? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
How did you do this stunt? And like, how many stunt people is involved in this and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, most crew members will already have their next job lined up, and they might just need an extra pair of hands that, you know,
Yeah.
that you can then leapfrog onto and jump onto. So a really good piece of advice there is, if you are on a set, ask everyone questions and like figure out where they're going and figure out if you can come along or how you can come along.
Yeah, exactly. So bringing the bit back to you, I'm really interested because this is like the first and probably, I mean, I'm not gonna say last, but I would say likely to be the last script I wrote back in like 2015 to 16. So how are you so, I don't know, inspired to create such? Because I've seen a lot of your work, and it's so touching, so truthful, I think, so strong. Like you're bold. I know people like put labels left and right when it comes to describing stuff, but your work, I'm sure people have seen it, is bold and like really creative at the same time. So how do you sit down and create something like, for example, this world we live in, or any of your other stuff?
Thank you. Firstly, that's very kind. But yeah, it's, I guess, inspiration is something that's really, really quite difficult to come through because it's always so organic. And if there's script writers in this session, which I'm sure there are many, one of the big things is looking at a blank piece of paper or a blank screen and thinking, where the hell do I start with this one? And so each of my ideas kind of is born, I would say, from life, from real experiences. And I think I've only kind of come to that realization probably scarily recently, because with the pandemic, obviously we're not going out, I'm not seeing people or like having experiences outside of my four walls, and that's really put a muffle on kind of the creative writing aspect. So what I would recommend for any writer is just live and like breathe life. You will find characters everywhere you are. So a lot of my characters are based off of real people, or people that I see on a bus or in a bus stop or in a hospital or wherever they might be, on a nightclub or in a bar or on the street. There's people that I think, okay, you are interesting and I want to follow you. Not in real life because that's a stalker, but in my scripts. But yeah, I think writing is something that is really tricky, and especially as you mentioned with the stories that we tell, it is quite controversial. They are quite, they're not your everyday kind of family viewing stories. There are a lot of them focus on alcoholism, drugs, addiction, queer issues, gender identity. A lot of very kind of controversial, difficult subjects to tackle. Um, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that we know that film has the power to affect people and to change people's lives. For example, we did a film called Pulse, which is a 5 minute long screen dance film, which was about the Pulse massacre in Orlando, in Florida. And that, even though that was a very kind of simple piece to write because there was no dialogue and no kind of real characterization in terms of dialogue story, what we found was we had to be so careful with what we were doing because it dealt with real people's lives and people who had lost their lives. I remember when we released it, I think we got about 2 million views over a weekend when we released it. And I actually got a letter from a survivor of the attack whose partner had died at the Orlando massacre, and it was. I think I didn't open the letter for about a week. I was terrified. I was like, I really don't want to open this because this is, this is everything that means so much to me, and I, this is awful to think that they might have seen the film and disagreed with certain elements, or being hurt by certain elements. And eventually, when I did open it, they said it was a really difficult film to watch, but they could see why it was made because it meant that other people could see the kind of the humanity and the narrative around it, other than just a statistic on a news page. Um, and so that's why I think writing is something that is really important to me. Is that I know that it has the power to change people's lives, and change people's thoughts and feelings, and tell people stuff that they probably don't even know about. A lot of people don't know about the Orlando massacre. A lot of people don't know about what the subject of This World We Live In deals with, which is drugs, in terms of kind of sexuality, and the grinder epidemic. So there's a lot of stuff that we kind of tell that is very hidden under that kind of surface. So yeah, that's kind of what a very long way of describing how I find inspiration. If that
No,
was
it's very, very. nice to see someone who's so dedicated and loves clearly loves what they're doing, and it shows. It shows. You're not just creating for the sake of creating. You're also creating to exactly
Yeah.
all the
You
stuff you said.
you mentioned earlier, like one of the key things for people to have is the drive and the proactivity of going up and talking to people. What would you say is like if you could just say one attribute that a creator needs to be able to work in this industry, like what would you say that is?
Ooh. Hmm.
Like what one thing could the students here like really focus on in terms of their skill set?
As a skill set or as a characteristic of like
I think a
a human.
characteristic. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I think I already mentioned for me the humility
Mhm.
and always learning. Just kind of part of that is a very important one. Um, and kind of having this drive of like this I guess. How do I can't put it in one word. I guess I'm like a big hustler, so I would say like hustle and having that kind of like clear idea of where you want to go and what you want to do. But if you don't, then have the humility to talk to people and kind of figure out what's best. Like, also, don't be afraid to ask like people that are closest around you or a mentor or teacher, what am I good at? And just be like, be honest with me. Am I organized? You don't think I'm organized? Okay. Do you think I write well? Okay, then I'll be a writer. I will not be a producer or a coordinator or whatever. Do you think I'm really good with managing things at the same time and math? Then I would be a line producer. You know what I mean? Like it's really like, yeah. So if you know exactly, you have a very clear idea of where you're going, just have that clarity and ambition and work hard. But if you don't, just don't be afraid to ask and learn. So you find what's right for you. And of course, love for what you're doing. I know it might sound cheesy, but if we don't love it, why are you doing? Why would you wake up at 3 a.m. to go to a set if you don't love your job? And
Yeah.
maybe with 16 hours.
Otherwise, it's torture if you hate what you're doing in
Yeah,
the industry.
exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say? What do you
Oh,
think?
I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping that I'd just trip you up. I would say perseverance is a really solid skill. Just because we're so often knocked down in the industry. There's always something that happens. For example, a pandemic, where you just suddenly think, okay, is this the right industry for me? Um, and the amount of times I've had that exact same feeling of like, okay, I don't think I'm good enough for this. I'm going to kind of, shut down a little bit. But then 2, 3 months later, something great happens, and then I'm back on it again. And then usually that kind of snowballs. Then, so you know, one thing would lead to another. With that, though, what I would say is it isn't necessarily patience; it is more perseverance. It's kind of being able to stand up and brush yourself off when you've been knocked down and kind of really push through and punch back 10 times as hard as you've been knocked down. um,
Mhm.
is a really, really key skill I think people
Yeah,
need.
sure.
The industry is bloody tough. Like it's really, really hard to get into, and to kind of break through in. So I would say perseverance.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to know because you mentioned how you work, like you were choosing a film and you want to be really specific with the stuff that you work on. As a producer, how do you select a film? Like, what is it that you look for in a film?
Well, it depends on how I get around to the project. So if someone, I'll divide it in a few different groups. So if a writer just plain sends me a script and says, I have no attachment to this, I have nothing, would you like to write the rights? I always read everything. I give I give more than the first 10, 20 pages sometimes to a script. Um, and it's just then I kind of think, who do I know that might be good? Like, say I have a good relationship with an A-lister's agent. Would they be good for this? Or I have a first-time director who just is coming off of an award-winning short. Could they maybe direct? Or if that sort of stuff. So that's what I look for when it's just purely the story. Is it something that I connect with, and I would put so much time because it's a lot of extra effort. compared to the examples that I'll get to in a second. So it's really like, do I like the story, and how do I envision making it? Because, and when I say making it, I don't mean it as creative as maybe you would address it. I mean, how it's a bit, it's very straightforward. Like, how much would this cost? Can I find this location? Would this look good? Would there be people interested? And would people buy it? Because I am creative, but I'm a lot more on the business side. So I need to think about these things when it's just purely optioning a script. So far I've only done that with one because I really deeply connect with it. The one that you mentioned is untitled at the moment, and I'm doing everything on it. I am currently budgeting, scheduling it, talking to talent, talking to financiers, talking to everyone to make this happen because I really believe in the story. Um, when a writer director approaches and he wants me to come on board and produce, and he wants to direct, or she, they, it's really about the chemistry between us. Like, could we work well? And chemistry, maybe it's a wrong word, but how do we get along? Like, we have a chat, we meet. How do you envision this? Does it match with what I see this project becoming? Um, it's a lot about the people you work with, especially someone who wants to take full control over the project. I would really like to know, can we work together, and are you going to be super protective? Because again, I do need to look at things from a business perspective. When it's a short, it's again, it's a combination of, am I passionate about this, and would this person, be it they bring on board a DP or an actor or whatever, do they kind of click with me? If it's a feature or a TV series, it's a lot about the whole team that we would like. And are you going to be super protective of the story? Because I might need to make some changes for the benefit of it. And a lot of writers, I mean, you will have to tell me if you're like that, but they really are committed to their projects and they don't want any notes. They're like, take it or leave it. And sometimes you need to be a little bit more flexible. And if someone gives you notes about something, it has nothing to do with how good of a writer or director you are. It's more like, how do we make this sellable so more people see it, because this is such a good story. Let's change this to that. And if we work better, be it the location, be it the concept of this specific a scene, or be it who we're going to attach and stuff like that. And also, are they realistic? Because I've had people approach me, first time writers, which is nothing bad. That's a great thing. Like, I admire everyone's first time attempt to make a project, but there's sometimes, I want to direct this and I want this like very big star involved, and I want this budget, and then it's just a little bit tricky of how do you approach it. Like, I'm sorry, but sometimes this, to be very truthful, it's probably not gonna happen. um, Especially if it's a very big budget. If it's a smaller film, then maybe we can work it out again. If I really believe in the story, maybe I would have that name that we can attach to make this work, and then you can direct, of course, given that you are open to a lot of collaboration, not only from me, but from an excellent DP and other people. So that's kind of like in a few groups, because it's very different. TV series, I haven't really done TV series until now. I'm developing something with someone I really want to work with, who's also a close friend. And we've kind of separated business from friendship for this one, because again, I really like the concept, and few streamers are interested in it. So obviously I'm helping her develop budget and all that stuff. But it's again something that I do believe in, can be made. It's not just, oh, we're friends, let's get together, because it's gonna be tough. It's a TV series, a big TV series, so that's kind of, again, a very long answer, but hopefully
No,
it's just like,
that's really interesting to know about, like, how the actual process of it, and how to kind of shop for a script, and how to get, like, for example, if there are script writers here who are looking for a producer, it's kind of like, well, what do I need to do to make sure that a producer picks this up and like get a certain amount of funding for it? So
well, it's good to do. I mean, I wouldn't say do your research, because this is not like you're looking for an agent or manager, because I've done, I prefer to work on dramas or biopics or like um, those sort of stuff. I'm not much of a comedy or horror person, but if you've written something excellent, you shouldn't judge by the stuff that I've done that I would not consider your script. It's more about your attitude because I mean, not to put this in a negative, but just as a tip, and I hope I don't come across in any sort of condescending, but there are people sometimes who have not even looked up that I'm a girl and have addressed me with "Dear Mr. Allen" or something like that, which is just like, if you haven't even put the effort into seeing or misspelled my name, which is like, I get it that mistakes happen, but it's happened more than once, sometimes more than once from the same person, and they clearly have not looked up what I do, who I am. And it's very like, you Google and like you can see
Yeah.
I'm a female, you can address me with Miss or whatever. Sometimes people email me to ask me to buy their film. I'm clearly not a distributor. So stuff like that are just like, I know it might sound silly saying it out loud now, and some people might laugh, but it does happen, and it's not nice because I do not want to be, you know, put off by these people because the next person who comes in, I try to bring a fresh mind to, okay, a new email came in. I really hope this person really knows what they're doing because I do want to work on stuff. I do want to meet new people. I do want to take this project on board. But please, at least like spell my name right. You know what like you're talking about before even asking for me to read 140 pages of script. Because
Hmm.
that's also my time.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, thank you. That was really useful to know. That was
So tell me, how was it directing the features that you've done compared to the TV series? Tell me that comparison from a director's point of view.
yeah. I
How
mean,
do you approach it?
the feature was very similar to actual torture. It was 30-40 day shoots, that back to back with like very little breaks because we were doing it on a shoestring budget, and so we really couldn't spend time like having blocks and having like little things off. And so it was really difficult. And the last feature we did was back in 2018. That's the one that premiered in Leicester Square, and then we had our Hollywood premiere a few months later. um, it sounds all glamorous, but realistically, we were filming in an apartment in the height of summer, when the World Cup was on, and there was a heat wave. There was no openable windows in the apartment we were shooting in. The ventilation had broken, and it was just ridiculous. Like we were boiling alive, essentially. Um, and so that was that for 40 days. And directing that was again really tricky, just because that was such a tight crew, and so directing obviously is it's all about psychology. It's all about making sure that people are happy and kind of collaborating in a way that you're putting your vision across without kind of being dictatorial. um, and so that's something that I found was a very good way of kind of learning that skill of kind of making sure that people are on the same page as me without demanding stuff. Um, Compared that to the TV series, which was roughly the same amount of days but spread out. So we had about 5 days per episode, which we worked on for the series, and that was spread across 6 months. That was so much easier because we had that time in between. We were able to kind of regroup after every episode that we shot and realize, okay, this isn't quite working in this way. Let's do this differently next time. And as you mentioned, it was a learning experience. Every set that you're on, you should be learning stuff and like thinking, okay,
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this next time, or oh, I'll do that again next time. And so that was really useful for me as a director. And we recently shot. We started shooting the second season in December before this current pandemic lockdown, um, and it's just again I've learned so much from that. So we were shooting within kind of the remit of lockdowns. We had everyone social distancing, masks were on. We had to like disinfect everything every hour or less. And again, that was a really great learning experience as a director, because automatically you're putting a shield up, like a physical shield up between you and your actors. And as a director, it's so important to kind of get on with the actors. And as you mentioned, chemistry is a really important thing for all crew members and for all collaborative and creative people. Um, so yeah, kind of crossing that um, physical distance was really, really useful for me to kind of understand how to get people on the same page. But yeah, directing the series has been incredible. I'm really, really proud of it, and obviously, with it being such a small team, I wasn't like just doing directing as as is always the case. I was also doing a bit of producing, writing. I was occasionally on camera. I was doing DIT in the back, as is always going to be the case. Like as a director, you kind of have to do everything a lot of the time. And so, yeah, again, it was just a learning experience that I'd thoroughly recommend for everyone. Um, I did have to kind of work a lot with Amazon with the series, just because it is an Amazon exclusive, and so we started shooting it knowing it was going to be on Amazon, um, and that actually it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I thought it would be a lot harder, but actually, typically people tend to quite open up if you say, "Oh, this is going on Amazon." It meant we could get tons of locations for free.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, they saw us as legit, which was really nice. We got so many actors, working with us and collaborating with us that actually we probably wouldn't have been able to have if it hadn't been for such a big platform picking us up. And so, yeah, that's kind of one of the benefits of directing a show compared to a film, is that realistically with a show you won't make a show without knowing where it's going, whereas a film you could easily make one and it could just sit on a shelf and not really see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
And actors are kind of a bit wary of that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There always are the questions like, do you have financing? Where is it going? No, I completely understand that. Would you say, from a more creative standpoint, that you had? I mean, it's not really about do you prefer one or the other, but do you see, because I've spoken to and I've read about directors who are both working within film and TV, that they usually tend to enjoy TV in terms of that they have more time to focus on the character and develop the story. Do you see that, or?
Yeah, I have different preferences. I think my preference for writing is definitely within television and TV, because as you say, you've got so much more space to write these characters and to develop the story and all of your arcs, and you can have so many kind of callbacks and you can just really establish a story over a longer period of time. Um, However, I prefer directing for film. I think
Mhm.
film directing is something that I just love doing, and I think that probably will likely change. I think the way the landscape of television is changing, like with Netflix, Disney Plus now, all of them are so cinematic. Like the television shows that we're seeing,
Yeah,
like Mandalorian, WandaVision, all of these types of things are so cinematic that actually it's almost like mini films each
so
episode. So I think that that line might get blurred for me soon. We'll
mhm.
see. I'll let you know.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
yeah, I mean, distribution is always something that's really tricky, as I'm sure you know, having your film with the Venice Film Competition uh, in the awards. Do you have any advice for tackling distribution and kind of festival circuits?
For short or for features?
Go with shorts.
Well, when you're making a short, you kind of, as you mentioned, the way you worked and the way I've worked so far, there's always been stuff that I really saw as things that would be well perceived by be it a wide audience or with distribution. Now we're facing a little bit of challenge because we were in talks to put False Indigo on Amazon, but they just announced that they're not gonna be taking documentaries and shorts now. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
So you're lucky because you are working on TV series, but we are a bit kind of cut out. So now the director and I are gonna just discuss a little bit more where, because he's also executive producing, where he wants to take this, what contacts we have, and what I would likely do with this specific case is distribution, sales agents and distributors that I've met from Cannes Film Festival for a couple of years ago. I would probably reach out to them and just be like, "Are you taking short form?" because if so, I have this. And it does help that Morgan Polanski is in the lead and we won some awards. Um, so, I guess either a really good story or someone recognizable in the cast if you could do it, even if it's, you know, um, someone who's like, because also Jack Brett Anderson, who's in the male lead role, he's also done like Wolf Blood, so he's known, maybe the younger audience in England. So it's not like they're not known people, but they're also people who kind of look at the story and do it because they like the story. They're not in it so much for the they are not A-listers that they need to have millions because their agents are just looking after them business wise,
Yeah.
which happens most of the time why we are rejected. It's not because the story's not good, it's because they don't see this as them making money, not so much their clients.
Mm.
But sorry, I'm like going off on the point. But anyway, back to festivals.
That's actually really good with,
So
with A-listers though, because realistically, like, you know, one of the big recommendations with A-listers is just reach out to the agents. Like, the worst they can say is no. Like, the
yeah,
likelihood is realistically they.
if you could reach out to their manager, it's better. If they have a manager, or if it's an American talent, or any sort of talent that has a local representation, so if they have UK or French or whatever it is, reach out to them or their manager because they are more likely to say, yeah, send over the script and we'll read it, and they can have a conversation with you and you can build a relationship. The top five in the States are very tricky to work with, because they do look after their clients from, I feel like, a lot more business perspective, which is like, it's their job. It's nothing bad. It's just, it's less likely you would be able to get that talent to read your script if
Mhm.
they solely are with someone like CAA, when they also have a UK agent. Even if that agent is United or independent, it's more likely that they would, I don't know, just UK agents are a little bit more open, I guess, to ideas and, yeah. But anyway, back to the festivals. Um, with that, that's what I would do with False Indigo. It's still kind of like a work in progress. We're kind of discussing which other platform should we approach now, kind of waiting to see if anyone following Amazon closing their kind of, for the moment, submissions for documentaries and shorts. If anyone else, like maybe Netflix or Hulu or anyone else, would kind of open up, we would kind of wait out because we just learned that, I think, a few days ago. So it kind of cut off all the ties we had with that. So we would kind of rebrand, I guess. But if you are in the very early stages of the short, I would say go for a really strong story, as I think I mentioned a little bit while ago. A good recognizable name or a combination of both, because they'll always appear. Like I've had with False Indigo, I feel like we had the combination of both. We had an interesting concept, but also, a dysfunctional couple, but not the usual them just arguing over dinner. And we also had two people who are known, but also joined for the sake of a good project. Um, and just create. I mean, you never know what people are looking for at the end of the day. What do I know? What do anyone know? Like, you never know. Tomorrow, someone's gonna announce we only want short comedies, and all of a sudden, you're writing an amazing short comedy, and because Amazon or HBO or someone else said we are gonna buy that, all of a sudden, all the actors want to do that, and then you have, opportunity to get someone really well known in the comedy world or in the drama wanting to transfer to comedy that you attach, and there you go. That might even do it for free. I have producing and directing friends who have attached great people that you would never think are gonna, in the sense of never, look at that. Not only they looked at that, they absolutely loved it. Not only they absolutely loved it, they even tried to find financing. So go for it. I mean, and with festivals, just submit and see what happens.
Yeah, that's really really good piece of advice. Yeah, definitely.
um, what do you have like any? How did you how can you share? How did it happen with Amazon? Like, was it kind of like they wanted it from the get go, or did you make it like exactly like as I said, make something and someone was interested because it's a great story?
A little bit, yeah. I think one of the key pieces of advice with stuff like that is really just being a bit cheeky and kind of taking up opportunities where you can. So I'll start first with we had a major sponsor with one of our features with Sainsbury's.
Mhm.
Um, Again, this is really ridiculous, but when we did our budget thing, we looked at what actually we needed money for, and it all kind of went on food, water, um, just general kind of like little bits and bobs like props, wardrobe, those types of kind of costs that we were really struggling to kind of source money for. And so I, in the end, went around all of the Sainsbury's stores in Leeds, and they give out these gift cards for Sainsbury's for community champions and like community support. In the end, I'd gone to every single Sainsbury's store in Leeds and got about £500 worth of these gift cards. This was back when I was like 16. Um, and then I obviously doing that, obviously some like alarm was going off somewhere, and they rang me and were like, this is what you're doing. Can you pitch it to us? We'd like to maybe look at supporting it properly and a bit more like legally, like a little bit more without all of the kind of tricks that you've done. And so I pitched it to them, and they said no, not for us, but good luck with it. And then 2 weeks later, you might remember this actually, there was a massive thing in the news that Sainsbury's had kicked out a gay couple for kissing in one of their stores. Um, and it was a huge thing. It went on for like 2 days in the news. And I thought, obviously, with the film being LGBTQ themed, I thought, oh, you know, I might just send Sainsbury's another email. So I dropped them an email saying, just to check, you definitely don't want to fund this LGBTQ gay focused film that, you know, really young, really independent, would love to promote Sainsbury's as supporting this. And I got a reply within about 18 minutes, just being like, yeah, we'll fund it entirely. Like, we'll support everything, like whatever you need. And so that kind of, again, that showed me, okay, actually what I need to do is really just be a bit cheeky and ask for stuff that I might not get, I probably won't get, but you know, the worst thing they could say is no. And that's kind of what happened with Amazon. We submitted our feature film to them, which had already been produced and already premiered everywhere. They took that on, and when they took it on, they just sent me an email about like text specifications or something. And then I sent them another email saying, I really want to do something else. Can you support us? Like, what can I do? Who do I need to email? Um, and then again, that just spiraled then from them saying, okay, well, let's see who I can put you in touch with, to someone being like, no, this isn't for us. And I was like, are you sure this isn't for you? Who else can I speak to? And in the end, someone said yes. And then it was like, okay, great. Let's go for it then. Let's start making it. And
Awesome.
that is one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give is a persistence, and just ask for stuff all the time, because realistically most people want to help. Like, most people want to be able to make sure that you can make a film. If it's not much out of their way, they'll want to kind of say yes.
Mhm.
I just noticed Craig came back on there. I don't know if are we needing to wrap up?
Um,
Oh no.
it's no. um, we are. Yeah. I mean, we have. We're almost supposed to be finishing a little bit. Does anyone? If anyone has any questions, we're like so chatty.
I could go on for
Like
hours.
giving the longest answers ever. Sorry. I just like to go into detail so people understand how I think, because if I give an answer to something and it might come across the way it's not meant to come across, because producing people sometimes tend to be very harsh. Um, I'm just trying to explain how it kind of works without inspiring people rather than kind of
Mhm.
making them not think this is a good idea to send their films and stuff. But
No,
yeah,
that's
if anyone has like any questions or anything we haven't covered or anything specifically for one
yeah.
of Gage's projects or one of mine, how they come together or anything else, do you like drop them in the chat? And we have one. Do you want to read it out?
Yes. So Sana, I'm so sorry for mispronouncing that. I don't know if do you unmute, or do we just answer it? I don't know.
Yeah, we can answer it.
They ask, do you have any tips on how you can start off as an extra or a runner on set? You'll probably be best placed for this one, Deli.
Hmm. Extra, there's like agencies. Um, Oh, actually, Runner, there is an agency now that has opened up to crew. They are originally they started in the States and now they're in the UK and they have a crew section. So they post a lot. I'm getting emails. Sometimes they look for producing or produce coordinator or producing something. So I get notifications, but sometimes they're actually looking for producer's assistant, director's assistant, PA, and they don't actually need you to have any experience, just kind of have the organizing stuff. And if you have had film school or you have had done anything, it would be great to mention. So it's called We Got Pop.
Oh, I'm
So
gonna write that.
POP, We Got Pop. And maybe I can just message it to everyone. We Got Pop. There you go. And it has a essay kind of section, I believe, but they also just kind of introduced crewing in the UK. So I think you can do 1 month. I think you have to pay for that. For the extra, I don't think you have to pay, but for the crew, I think you have to pay. But I think they also give you 1 month free.
Hmm.
So you just upload your CV, put like stuff you want to do and stuff you have experience in, and you just start applying, and you never know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
That's like a specific website that I know about. And same for extra jobs. I think they have like that is separate.
Yeah.
Because it's actually a platform. So like a lot of agencies kind of register and then they look for crew or background artists. I'm sure there are other agencies for background work. And then once you are on set, as we already covered with Gage, just ask people, go to the AD, and without obviously being too pushy, be like, hey, like, what are you doing next? Like, how do I get on board? I would love to, um, I think a lot of the ADs that I know who are like now second or first or floor third, they started as a crowd PA. So you kind of there on a daily, bring people water or whatever, and then you kind of start talking to the crowd and they make you next job, they make you on a contract, and then the next thing you know you might be actually taking over their job because they've moved to being second AD on set rather than crowd. So that's something that I can think of.
Mhm.
Do you have any other websites or anyone else?
The only two I can think of for runners, there's a Facebook group. Look at Facebook groups. There's so many. There's one
Oh
called
yeah, sorry, of course I deleted Facebook, so I'm just like completely
I
not
same
thinking
here. I've
about
deleted it recently, so I always forget about it. But that was one that I think it was like Runners UK or like there's so many. What I'll do is I'll send them all in an email to all of you to say like these are some of the ones that I'd recommend.
And I
Um,
mean, I'm not to like kind of self promote myself, but if you do want to do that, you can drop me a message, and if I have like, I like to pay people. I don't like to really not pay people when they come on set, but sometimes I can, and I love to like have someone. I'm trying to find someone that I can regularly work with that assists me, and I can like kind of teach them. Like we can work together, and they can kind of be my coordinator, go-to person who sorts paperwork while I'm trying to sort the location or the cast. So I'm happy for whoever wants to. I don't have currently anything that is going into a production, but I might hear about an AD person who's needing daily to cover something.
yeah,
So especially if you're a driver, I'm happy for people to drop me a message. I don't know. I'm in London, by the way, so I don't know how helpful that is. But I do know people who work in Wales and Scotland
yeah,
and up north, Manchester and stuff, and Gage can cover Leeds. So,
yeah. Same here for me. Like, feel free to drop me a message. The amount of people who are making films, like my friends, who some of them have paid, some of them aren't, but you will jump around. As for extras, though, there is Star Now and Mandy. Those two just sign. I think they're free to sign up for.
I think Mandy's more for acting. I think, but yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? Try.
Yeah.
Oh, Mandy has a crew as well. Mandy has a crew
Yes.
department as well.
Yeah, we
So
do.
there you go. You can find something there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think Tom is asking a question for you
oh,
because they're talking about working with your own money. How is that different to being funded by Amazon? Do you have less creative freedom, or do they give you full creative control?
interesting. Yeah. So basically, the first season for Amazon, we had to fund it entirely, and then they gave us the money afterwards. So we basically had to create it, and then they funded us. For the second season, it's a little bit different. They're funding us more upfront, which is very nice. Very nice. We like that a lot. But yes, there is. That is one of the very minor things that I hate is the loss of creative control and autonomy. Amazon have actually been really, really nice. Like I've kind of again just been cheeky and been like, I am doing this, and this is what will happen. and kind of obviously checking in with them before, but with our series being quite, in some ways, provocative and quite something that most streamers might not be keen on. They were like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine to do. The other thing is because we're part funded by crowdfunding and Patreon, so a lot of our, I hate saying this, a lot of our fans are like sponsors and like give us some money. It means then that we can pay for a lot of the stuff that Amazon might not necessarily fund. So yeah, we don't necessarily have less creative freedom with Amazon, thankfully. And actually, that's something going forward I'm really keen to make sure we keep, because a lot of the time distributors can, for very valid reasons, have legitimate concerns about what they want, but sometimes it is literally just taking over your project, and it's like, I don't want to make someone else's project, I want to make mine. So that's something that I'm really keen to carry on in the future. And I'm sure Craig can tell you a lot about creative control and streamers and stuff like that from his work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone has any other questions? Don't like, we can answer anything. There's no small, big questions or silly or whatever. If anyone's wondering about anything, go
While
for
we're
it.
waiting for, if we've got maybe one last question, I just want to ask, what is the one thing that the BFI Film Academy students here can do to better their careers or to benefit their careers? Like, what's the one thing that you'd suggest them doing tonight?
Can I suggest two? Find a mentor and read a lot. You can never like find the right books depending on what you want to do. There's excellent books for everything you can think of. Be it if you want to be an actor, a manager, a distributor, a director, a writer, a producer, line producer specifically. There's so many. Casting director as well. I don't know what anyone wants to do, but there's so many wonderful jobs that you can do. And there's so many wonderful books. And the more you read, the more you know, the more you know. And then if you're reading that on set, someone might spot you and be like, hey, what are you reading? Oh, you want to be a line producer? Do you want to shadow me? Who knows? Yeah, so read on set. And find a mentor if you can. I have a couple, one for development and one for producing. So,
That's a very good piece of
okay.
advice, and I'd definitely echo that as well. Morven actually asks, how would we find a mentor? Which
First, depends on what you want to do, which department you want to be in. And then there is a very cheeky book. Let me see, it's on the shelf here somewhere. I will find the name of that book and I would text it to Craig to share it with the people. But there's a book that has like, I think it's called, oh, there you go. I think it's this case. And it has like so many numbers on there that you would be surprised how whose numbers you would find. I think it's case. If you can find that, let me know and I'll make sure that it's the right name. But it's like a thick book and it has everything. It's very useful when you're producing as well or directing or anything else, but there's like big ADs on there, their numbers or emails, and you can just call them up.
there's another
Like,
one as well that Spotlight did, I think, called Contacts. They do it every year.
I think that's more to find an agent or a manager. I'm not sure if they release crew because we're talking just now. I'm just focusing on finding like a crew person and a mentor.
The
Um,
other things that I was thinking for crew is Netflix do mentorships, BAFTA do mentorships. You can apply for BAFTA Crew and BAFTA Guru. The other thing is literally just email. If you spot someone who you think, they could give me a lot of advice and a lot of opinion, just send them an email. One of my friends got a mentorship from this Italian, like I think he was like Oscar-winning producer or director, and he just emailed him and was like, "I really want to like know what's inside your brain." And then like in 2 months' time, he's off to travel Italy with him and go shadow him on sets and stuff. Now I'll get just finding his email online, sending him an email.
I think Sana is asking mentor agent to find acting jobs. So with the agent, it's more the contacts for Spotlight, I think. And again, Mandy, Star Now, all these get some experience and then just research who is maybe an agency that would not have anyone like you on board, or management. I mean, management is not that popular in the UK. It's becoming more popular, but yeah, Spotlight Contacts is a great book. For mentorship, I guess with actors, actors that you know have worked more than you, they don't need to be A-listers. Just someone that has done a lot of work on set and could just kind of help you, what to do. There's a casting director called Manuel Puro. He does 21 self-tape, 21 day self-tape challenge. So it's very affordable and gives you like an insight on how to self-tape. So he kind of mentors people, but he doesn't call himself a mentor. If you ask him, he probably wouldn't call himself a mentor. But he kind of takes on board 10 new people every month, and he teaches them how to do self-tapes. And then he brings on guest casting directors or agents to give tips. So maybe that's another way of learning and finding, someone to cast you or to represent you. Yeah.
This Friday as well is also Showreel Share Day. If people haven't heard of it, it's basically like it's a full day of sharing your showreel. It's mostly for actors, so if you do have an acting showreel, definitely put it onto that thread. Last year we saw about 700 showreels in a single day. It was incredible. But what's happening now is a lot of creatives outside of just actors are creating their showreels. So if they've got a director of photography showreel, we saw quite a few of that, and that's a really good way of kind of getting yourself out there, getting a few more followers, and hopefully finding collaborators or actors that you might want to work with, or also finding an agent. I think 3 of my friends last year who were actors got agents just through Showreel Share Day. So would thoroughly recommend that. That's this Friday, and I think it's all on Twitter, so it's at Showreel.
I think they have it like weekly or bi-weekly or maybe monthly. I don't know what they do, but also it's very handy to be on IMDb Pro. That's like the ultimate stalker machine without anyone knowing that you're actually stalking.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of people's agents who might be, you can see who they represent, what they've done. You can see production companies, distributors, you can see producers, you can see all sorts of stuff. So if you know that you absolutely loved, what's a recent film? I don't know, Enola Holmes, and you absolutely love the way it's done, and you want to do art directing, then find who are the people who did production design or art directing on it, and I'm sure they have some contacts on there. If not the case, that book, which I'm super confidently sharing the title, and I'm not sure if that's the name. So IMDb Pro is also very handy.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've got that done. I think that's our time up.
We run out of time.
Yeah. We could go on forever, but yeah, what we'll do is if we put in our contact or our email or our websites in the chat, feel free to kind of reach out to us. If you've got any other questions, or if you just want to know stuff that we can help out with. And obviously Craig can put us in touch if you've missed it. But yeah, thank you.
Are you sharing your Instagram?
That's a really cool key way of getting people. That's one of my pieces of advice for one thing you can do tonight. Set up an industry Instagram. Set up one that's aside from your personal one. Set up a professional one where you can share your screenshots from your films, or like your tone, your ideas, and genuinely reach out to people through Instagram.
Here mine. Mine is mixed, but on Rebellion Army, I'm only sharing. Like, I did live chats as well with some industry people, including Manuel Puro.
And they were amazing as well. I watched them today. I was like, I've learned so much.
Did you like best?
I liked them all. They're all just very useful. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to us talk for about an hour. I hope that was useful for everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Let us know if there's anything we missed by email.
That was great. That was very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool.
Oh. Well, people are just thanking. Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. Well, have a lovely rest of your Wednesday nights, and good luck with the rest of the course as well.
Yeah. Good luck with everything.